Hey guys, Zom Fox here, and today we're going to be talking about how the 2022 USFL MVP KaVontae Turpin has officially signed to an NFL team with the Dallas Cowboys. KaVontae Turpin, he's the man. He was, came into the league having really not done anything in the NFL. He's one of the highest picked receivers, the 7th overall receiver, and all he turned that pick into was being arguably the steal of the draft as 6 teams decided to pick a player that was a receiver instead of him, as he not only was an all-USFL wide receiver, but he was an all-USFL punt returner. Oh, and he was MVP of the league, as I said before, despite being a receiver returner. He definitely earned that honor. To put it simply, as a receiver, he was insane. Despite being on a team that was the best rush team in the league, he actually led the entire league in receiving and was the only guy above 500 yards, with only getting 44 receptions, averaging 12.3 yards per reception, and more importantly, he had over 300 yards after catch. His 4 touchdowns were that 7-way tie for second most. He was insane. Didn't drop a single pass, just great. Then when you go to his return stuff and like that, he actually had in total 921 all-purpose yards, which was 4th in the league. And more importantly, he did have 184 punt return yards, which were 2nd in the league. So overall, man, he was insane. He also did have a touchdown in the return game as well. He was just insane. He was very solid in the playoffs and was one of the only reasons why that the Generals team had even a chance. He did score a touchdown in that playoff game. He was overall great. As for his fit on the Cowboys receiving group is weird. He's already on the 3rd string, so we love to see it. As for the guys on the roster, the starters are CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, and Jalen Tolbert. Though, the big thing to note is Gallup will probably, at least he said recently, that he won't be ready for week 1. So note that starter spot is up for grabs currently. Then 2nd string, you have James Washington, Noah Brown, and Simi Fehoko. 3rd string, TJ Vasher, our boy Turpin, and then Brandon Smith. And then 4th string is Dennis Houston, Ty Frofigo, and Dontero Drummond. As for the 3rd, 4th, and 2nd string guys, the 4th string guys are all undrafted free agent rookies. The non-KaVontae Turpin 3rd stringers are all guys who haven't played heading into their 2nd season. Then the starters, we had some other guys. Simi Fehoko was a 5th round pick in 2021. He played in 5 games. That's it. Yeah, he didn't get any receptions, but he did play a bit. Then Noah Brown was a 7th round pick by Dallas in 17. He's appeared and played in pretty much every single game for the past couple years. He's appeared in at least half the games in his career. But in terms of receptions and yards, he only has 425 in his career. So unless they're expecting a big jump, I don't know if they're going to stay the 2nd string. But James Washington, on the other hand, he is probably one of their bigger pickups in free agency, as he was with Pittsburgh for the first 4 years. The Steelers didn't get his 5th-year option. He was, 2nd round pick, 60th overall by Pittsburgh in 18. His first year, not great, 217 yards. His 3rd and 4th year, not great, not even 400, not even 300. But his 2nd year showed a lot of promise that hopefully, for the Cowboys' sake, he can, improve upon. His 2nd year, he did have 735 yards. And it is important to note that even though he's definitely going to be a Hall of Famer, for 2020 and 2021, Big Ben was one of the, not good quarterbacks in the league, one of the worst quarterbacks, I would say, just because he just wasn't himself. So maybe that had something to do with his yards, though it didn't seem to really affect Claypool and Juju that much. But I guess we'll see. As for their starters, Jalen Tolbert is another shocking starter. He was a 3rd round pick as well, 80th overall by Dallas, just like the Garrett McGinn video, how they have a offensive lineman who's a 3rd round pick. Will he stay the starter? I guess we'll see. But aside from that, you have Michael Gallup, who was also a 3rd round pick, so maybe that's why. Gallup, as you know, he tore his ACL, but what he did play last year in those 8 games, he had 445 yards. So if he played a full season, he might have gotten 1,000. But aside from that, he is actually a 1,000-yard receiver. Just like Washington, 2019 was his best year, except this guy had over 1,000 yards receiving that year. The next year, he had 843. Overall, he's become a legit solid receiver and is part of the reason why the Cowboys are willing to, get rid of Cooper. I know Amari had a really big contract that they really couldn't afford fully, but they're going to have to pay some of the other guys, but they're keeping Gallup, and he was pretty solid. And CeeDee Lamb is expected to potentially take a massive step forward. He already is a Pro Bowler, as he was a Pro Bowler last year. He did have over 1,000 yards, and that was improving upon his rookie year where he had just under 1,000 yards. In both years, he's rushed for over 70 yards. so he can be a threat in that Wildcat sort of formation. And I think more impressively, he fumbled twice his rookie year. He didn't fumble a single time last year. So even though he didn't really gain any more total touchdowns, he had more yards, he had slightly more targets, more receptions, but his yards per reception went up by over a yard. So I think he can definitely be solid. I think that KaVontae could really get high in this roster. I think he could potentially be the starter for week 1. Now, I think that after that, he'll move back behind Gallup, but I think he'll definitely be a second stringer. As, I mean, hey, he is the USFL MVP, so hopefully he can, be good in the NFL. We'll see. This has been Fox. If you enjoy this content, want me notified as soon as I upload any videos, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell, and as always, have a great night.